Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. This video will come out on my birthday, and in order to celebrate that opportunity, I thought I would indulge in something I said I would look at about a week and a half ago, when I read and reacted to an article about queer internationalism. And namely, that would be to look at the Wikipedia page of Rosa Luxemburg. And I have to say, Rosa Luxemburg has had when reported to her reputation worldwide, I would say she has a disproportionate she's had a disproportionate impact in within uh, political theory. And by that I mean that people don't really know about her, but they might agree with some of her, with some of her stances, or have definitely come in contact with some of her stances, uh, and and it is for that reason that I think she deserves a little bit more exposure. Hence what I'm doing, throwing a pebble into the ocean and hoping it ripples far enough. I won't read all of her Wikipedia article because you know how Wikipedia articles go; they're a little bit of a mess. I'll go through the top, maybe this little I don't know, square rectangle, whatever you want to call it, and just maybe comment as I go along. Let's start with the biographical data. This is her circa 1895 or 1905. Okay, not a bad picture. She was born Rosalia Luxemburg, 5th of March 1871, in Zamość, Congress, Poland, in the Russian Empire. Died 15th of January 1919 in Berlin, Weimar Republic. She was executed by shooting. Her alma mater is the University of Zurich, where apparently she has a doctor of the Doctorate Juridico, a Juris Doctorate for the for the English speaking audience. Occupations are economist and revolutionary. Okay, that's amazing. Political party: Proletariat for a while, SDKPIL for a while, SPD, USPD. Yeah, German politics was kind of a mess around around the time of the Empire and the Weimar Republic. Because you had two different SPDs. It's almost no wonder that a brown shirted storm came in and swept everything up, and got Spartacus League and the KPD. Her spouse Gustav Lübeck, married but divorced. Partners these guys, parents these people, relatives this person, and this is her signature. Doesn't look half bad. Anyway, let's get into the actual person. Rosa Luxemburg, Polish Rosa Luxemburg, German Luxemburg, born Rosalia Luxemburg, born on this day, dead on this day, was a Polish and naturalized German revolutionary socialist, Orthodox Marxist, and anti-war activist. She became a key figure of the revolutionary socialist movements of Poland and Germany during the late 19th and early 20th century. Born and raised as a secular Jewish family in Congress, Poland. Congress, Poland is as has been shown before, actually right here, a part of the Russian Empire. She became a German citizen in 1897. The same year, she was awarded a Doctor of Law in Political Economy from the University of Zurich, becoming one of the first women in Europe to do so. Get a Doctor of Law in Political Economy, or get it from the University of Zurich. You'll have to be a little bit more precise with Wikipedia. Successively, she was a member of the Proletariat Party, the Social Democracy of the Kingdom of Poland and Lithuania. Okay. The Social Democratic Party of Germany, the Independent Social Democratic Party, the Spartacus League, and the Communist Party of Germany. Yeah, funnily enough, it looks like she was actually part of the Social Democracy of the Kingdom for a while, and in parallel, she was also with the Social Democrats of Germany. So, Not exactly sure how that works. I assume the laws at the time allowed people to be, allowed people to hold, uh, or to be members of parties in two different countries. Still kind of weird, if you were to ask me. After the SPD supported German involvement in World War I in 1915, Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht co-founded the anti-war Spartacus League, which eventually became the KPD. During the November Revolution, which is the, of course, German Revolution of 1918-1919, or November Revolution, she co-founded the newspaper Die Rote Fahne, a red flag, the central organ of the Spartacist movement. Luxemburg considered the Spartacist uprising of January 1919 a blunder, but supported the attempted overthrow of the SPD-ruled Weimar Republic and rejected any attempt at a negotiated solution. Friedrich Ebert's SPD cabinet crushed the revolt and the Spartacus Bund by sending in the Freikorps, government-sponsored paramilitary groups consisting mostly of battle-hardened World War I veterans of the Imperial German Army. Not very social democratic of you, Ebert. Freikorps troops captured, tortured, and executed Luxemburg and Liebknecht during the rebellion. And yet, streets get named after Liebknecht, but Luxemburg, gets like a foundation named after her, if anything. Due to her pointed criticisms of both the Leninist and the more moderate social democratic schools of Marxism, Luxemburg has always had a somewhat ambivalent reception among scholars and theorists of the political left. Nonetheless, Luxemburg and Liebknecht were extensively idolized as communist martyrs by the East German communist movement. I would say perhaps the term martyr is overemphasized, but it does have a high level of applicability here. The German Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, Bundesverfassungsschutz, BVS, asserts that idolization of Luxemburg and Liebknecht is an important tradition of the 21st century German far left. I already said that she is, underrated or not spoken about enough. So maybe I'm not as connected to the far left as the Bundesverfassungsschutz actually is. Despite her own Polish nationalities and strong ties to Polish culture, opposition from the PPS due to her stance against the 1918 independence of the Second Polish Republic and later criticism from Stalinists have made her a controversial figure in the present-day political discourse of the Third Polish Republic. Yeah, no surprise that Stalinists would hate her. Like, she thought Leninists were too out there and too focused on seizing power. Stalinists are even more focused upon seizing power and holding it than Leninists. So, of course, she would be critical of them. Anyway, let's see. We got ancestry. Not sure why that's part of life. Origins, education and activism. 1905 revolution. Revolution in the Kingdom of Poland. Well, she was connected to that. Germany before World War I, during the war, German Revolution, execution and aftermath. Reactions, annual demonstration. Anyway, fought. Revolutionary socialist democracy and criticism of the October Revolution. Luxembourg initially professed a commitment to democracy and the necessity of revolution. Luxembourg's idea of democracy, which Stanley Honorovitz calls generalized economy in an unarticulated form, represents Luxembourg's greatest break with mainstream communism, since it effectively diminishes the role of the Communist Party. But it, similar to the views of Karl Marx, states that the working class must emancipate themselves without a higher authority. Citation needed. Well, I'm not sure what to make of this. Like every theory I've been surrounded to said that self-emancipation is was necessary for is necessary in order to achieve communism as written by Karl Marx. So I don't really see how. So I can pretty much confirm this. I may not be able to cite it, but it is, as far as I can tell, actually legit. Greatest break with mainstream mainstream communism is in state communism basically. Early on, Luxemburg attacked the totalitarian tendencies present in the Russian Revolution, claiming that without democratic institutions and protection, life dies out in every public institution, and further claimed that such a lack of freedoms would lead to a dictatorship of a handful of politicians, i.e., exactly what happened. Freedom only for the supporters of the government, only for the members of one party, however numerous they may be, is no freedom at all. Freedom is always and exclusively freedom for the one who thinks differently. Not because of any fanatical concept of justice, but because all that is instructive, wholesome, and purifying in political freedom depends on this essential characteristic, and its effectiveness vanishes when freedom becomes a special privilege. I'm gonna have to read this again for myself. Okay, yeah. But socialist democracy is not something which begins only in the promised land after the foundations of socialist economy are created. It does not come as a sort of Christmas present for the worthy people who, in the interim, have loyally supported a handful of socialist dictators. Socialist democracy begins simultaneously with the beginnings of the destruction of class rule and the construction of socialism. So, in other words, if you establish any kind of class, you automatically go against socialism. So yeah. In an article published just before the October Revolution, Luxemburg characterized the Russian February Revolution of 1917 as a revolution of the proletariat, and said that the liberal bourgeoisie were pushed to the movement by the display of proletarian power. The task of the Russian proletariat, she explained, was now to end the imperialist world war in addition to struggling against the imperialist bourgeoisie. The world war made Russia ripe for a socialist revolution. Therefore, the German proletariat are also posed a question of honor, and a very fateful question. However, in several works, including an essay written from jail and published posthumously by her last companion Paul Levi, or Levy, I'm not exactly sure how to read that, publication of which precipitated his expulsion from the Third International, titled The Russian Revolution, Luxemburg sharply criticized some Bolshevik policies, such as their suppression of the Constituent Assembly in January 1918, following the October Revolution, and their policy of supporting the purported right of all national peoples to self-determination. So wait, she criticized this? She doesn't think people have a have a right to self-determination? Okay, maybe she has a problem with national people's right to self-determination, as in the idea that self-determination is, is contingent upon the existence of a nation. Which, yeah, okay. Let's see where she takes this. According to Luxemburg, the Bolsheviks' strategic mistakes created tremendous dangers for the revolution, such as its bureaucratization. She wrote that the shortcomings of the October Revolution reflected a period of complete failure of the international proletariat. Luxemburg further stated, the awkward position that the Bolsheviks are in today, however, is, together with most of their mistakes, a consequence of basic insolubility of the problem posed to them by the international, above all the German, proletariat. To carry out the dictatorship of the proletariat and a socialist revolution in a single country, surrounded by reactionary imperialist rule, and in the fury of the bloodiest world war in human history, that is squaring the circle. Any socialist party would have to fail in this task and perish, whether or not it made self-renunciation the guiding star of its policies. Okay, so international support. The idea that I actually think there is something similar here to what happened in the aftermath of the French Revolution, because the idea of the French Revolution is that the people overturned the rule of their king, and that led to all of the surrounding kingdoms to see the French not as an independent national assembly, but as land that is up for the taking, and that led to the French Revolution, to the years after the French Revolution, being nothing but a series of wars of defense by France in order to maintain its sovereignty. And it is through those wars that Le Petit Caporal managed to rise and eventually became Emperor Napoleon I of House Bonaparte. Which, yeah. I think this is what she is alluding to. The fact that uh, the fact that she sees and the fact she sees the Russians is or the Bolshevik state as a target in need of in need of self-defense rather than as a companion within a network of liberation movements. Instead of building out connections, it builds it builds up defense. It would ultimately build up defenses, trying to keep nefarious intentions outside of its borders. Okay, moving ahead. Bolshevik theorists such as Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky responded to this criticism by arguing that Luxemburg's notions were classical Marxist ones, but they could not be applied to Russia of 1917. That is debatable, but I'm not familiar enough with the state of Russia in 1917 to comment on that. They stated that the lessons of actual experience, such as the confrontation with the bourgeois parties, had forced them to revise the Marxian strategy. In other words, to make something up. As part of this argument, it was pointed out that after Luxemburg herself got out of jail, she was also forced to confront the National Assembly in Germany, a step they compared with their own conflict with the Russian Constituent Assembly. Following her observation of the October Revolution, Luxemburg claimed that it was the historic responsibility of the German workers to carry out a revolution for themselves and thereby end the war. Which is kind of what happened, actually. When the German Revolution began, not that one, or what is it, that one? Okay, let's see. Luxemburg immediately started to agitate for a social revolution, which she claimed would mitigate the consequences of the Bolsheviks' revolution. According to Aronowitz, the vagueness of Luxembourgian democracy is one reason for its initial difficulty in gaining widespread support. Yeah, I can kind of see the point of that, and I'm gonna parallel it to another philosopher of Polish origin, but who found his comfort, writing in German, namely Friedrich Nietzsche, because he theorized the idea of the Übermensch, someone who would be morally superior to the to the rest of the population, and who would therefore seek to reject previous systems of morals and ethics in order to allow people to supplant them with with their own ideals of what freedom and what and permissible action actually looks like. Thing is, when later on in his career, he actually tried to figure out what that would more concretely look like. Only his problem is that he was trying to set boundaries on a concept that was created to reject all boundaries, and that's arguably what drove his mental health to decline. While this might not have happened to Luxemburg, it is nevertheless possible that that she couldn't really formulate her own ideals, and to the extent to which she would have, to the extent to which the others could have found a pragmatic way to implement them. That could be also why Lenin and Trotsky critiqued her. The accumulation of capital. The accumulation of capital was the only work Luxemburg officially published on economics during her lifetime. I should probably read that at some point. In the polemic, she argued that capitalism needs to constantly expand into non-capitalist areas in order to access new supply sources, markets for surplus value, and reservoirs of labor. Colonialism. According to Luxemburg, Marx had made an error in Das Kapital, in that the proletariat could not afford to buy the commodities they produced, and by his own criteria, it was impossible for capitalists to make a profit in a closed capitalist system, since the demand for commodities would be too low, and therefore much of the value of commodities could not be transformed into money. That's kind of what's happening now, actually, come to think of it. According to Luxemburg, capitalists sought to realize profits through offloading surplus commodities onto non-capitalist economies, hence the phenomenon of imperialism, as capitalist states sought to dominate weaker economies. However, this was leading to the destruction of non-capitalist economies as they were increasingly absorbed into the capitalist system. With the destruction of non-capitalist economies, there would be no more markets to offload surplus commodities onto, and capitalism would break down. It's taking an unfortunately long time to, for that to actually happen. The accumulation of capital was harshly criticized by both Marxist and non-Marxist economists on the grounds that her logic was circular in proclaiming the impossibility of realizing profits in a closed capitalist system, and that her underconsumptionist theory was too crude. And yet it's happening. You can argue it's it's based on circular logic, but if you actually look at some premises of capitalism, or more precisely of defenders of capitalism, you'll find that it often relies on a level of circular logic, as in things happen that way because people are rational, and because people in general are rational, and if something goes wrong for a person, then that person was that person was irrational, or there was some irrationality at some point within the system, which ultimately that ultimately makes capitalism as a system lead from reason to irrationality, but however, people see the conclusion as rational if the way to it is also also fulfills the requirement for rationalism. Dialectic of spontaneity and organization. The dialectic of spontaneity and organization was the central feature of Luxemburg's political philosophy, wherein spontaneity is a grassroots approach to organizing a class struggle, and organization is a top-down or vanguardist approach to organizing a class struggle. She argued that spontaneity and organization are not separable or separate activities, but different moments of one political process, as one does not exist without the other. Those beliefs arose from her view that class struggle evolves from an elementary, spontaneous state to a democratic organization. Luxemburg developed the dialectic of spontaneity and organization under the influence of mass strikes in Europe, especially the Russian Revolution of 1905. Was it a revolution or a strike? Or was it both? Or did it start as one and end in the other? Unlike the social democratic orthodoxy of the Second International, she regarded the organization of a socialist movement as a temporary means to worker enlightenment. What should I understand by social democratic orthodoxy? As in, a socialist movement was worker enlightenment? Social democracy is simply the embodiment of the modern proletariat's class struggle, a struggle which is driven by a consciousness of its own historic consequences. The masses are in reality their own leaders, dialectically creating their own development process. The more that social democracy develops, grows, and becomes stronger, the more the enlightened masses of workers will take their own destinies, the leadership of their movements, and the determination of its directions into their own hands. Congruently with her belief of inevitable revolution, Luxemburg also subscribed to Marx's determinism, claiming that the modern proletarian class does not carry out its struggle according to a plan set out in some book or theory. The modern worker struggle is a part of history, a part of social progress. Okay, interesting. And then we got some segments on legacy, extensive ones too. Popular culture and literature, body identification controversy, as in they don't know if they actually killed her. These are some works, some writings. and some speeches too. That's nice. Anyway, that was a brief glimpse into the Wikipedia article on Rosa Luxemburg. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If you have anything you'd like to add, either to the article itself or to its or as a commentary or as a response to some of its contents, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe, and ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about book-related and literature topics, a link to which you can find in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. Additionally, you have the option of supporting me on Patreon, where depending on the level at which you pledge, you'll receive various perks. What exactly these are, I will not spoil. I want you to find for yourselves if you're interested in that. Alternatively, you can just stay on this channel and go for my extensive backlog, or do whatever else you want with your time. It's not like it's your time after all. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.